Okay, welcome to Miss Kathy G Does Maths. Today we are going to be doing inequalities. Okay, so we're going to go through the main parts of inequalities and how they work and how to do them. So the basic part of inequalities that you need to know is that they are just like algebra. Okay, so they're just like algebra or solving equations. The only thing that changes is that instead of an equals sign, you now have, or you will have, less than, greater than, less than or equal to, greater than or equal to signs. Okay, so instead of having that symbol there, we're now going to have these symbols here. Okay, so for example, if we had, on this side I'm going to do algebra, on this side I'm going to do inequality. I'm going to do a couple of examples. However, in both examples, I'm going to use the exact same question. The only thing that's going to change is I'm going to have a greater than or equal sign, or a less than equals, a greater than sign or a less than sign rather than an equal sign. Okay, so let's start off with 4x is equal to 16. If we had something like this on the for algebra, we would divide by 4. So 4x divided by 4 just leaves us with x, and then 16 divided by 4 is 4. Now, let's say, for example, we had the same numbers, so 4x and 16, but instead of an equal sign, we had a greater than sign. The same rules apply. We're going to do divide by 4 for this one. Okay, 4x divided by 4 is just x. I bring down the sign that I had at the top. 16 divided by 4 is 4. Okay, nothing changes between these two apart from the sign in between. If we had one that was more than one step, let's say, for example, 5x plus 3 is equal to 28. First step we're going to do here, we would minus the 3. So 5x would be equal to 25. We would then divide by 5 on both sides. Therefore, x would be equal to 5. Using the same numbers, all I'm going to do is change the symbol in between. So I now have 5x plus 3 is less than 28. I'm going to do the same steps. Take 3 from both sides to start with. So I have 5x is less than 25. Divide by 5 on both sides to cancel out the 5 and just get x by itself. Therefore, x is going to be less than 5. Again, if we look from here to here, nothing has changed in regards to our steps. The only thing that has changed is our symbols. Okay, the next part of the questions, or the next types of questions that you may get are ones where it asks you to list integers that satisfy. That satisfy the inequality. Okay, so let's say using the x is greater than 4, we are asked to list the first 4 integers that satisfy that inequality. Well, because this is greater than, it means that x cannot be 4. X has to be bigger than 4. We're also asked to list integers. Now, integers are whole numbers. We cannot have decimals. So the next biggest whole number is going to be 5. Now, these sort of questions, they'll normally ask you to list 3 or 4 integers. So we're just going to do the first 4 that are bigger or greater than 4. So 5, 6, 7, and 8. Now, you will also have inequalities that look something like this, where you have an inequality sign on both sides of your variable. All this is asking you to do is work out the range. Okay, so if we start with the left-hand side, we have -3 is less than or equal to x. So because it is less than or equal to x, we are going to write -3 as our first one, because it tells us it can be equal to x. Now our numbers are then going to go up to less than 4, because x is also less than 4. So all the numbers between -3 and 4 would be included in our range. So these would, so we'd have -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, and 3. Okay, once you have inequalities or you've got your ranges, you may also be asked to put your inequalities on number lines and make them look something like this over here. Before we move on to this, I'm going to go through what the different symbols mean on the number lines. The main things you need to know is open dot or closed dot. If it is an open dot, it is a less than or it is a greater than sign. If it is a closed dot, it is a less than or equal to, or a greater than or equal to sign. Closed dot is equal to. Open dot is not. Both have less than or greater than. So if we come over here and we have to label the inequality that is on this line. First of all, we can see over here that our line is labeled x. We also have an open dot. Okay, so we have x, and we know that it's going to be a greater than or a less than. Because our arrowhead is pointing up the number line, x must be greater than -1. Now you could write this like that, or you could write this like that. Both mean the same thing. X is on the bigger side of our inequality sign and -1 is on the smaller side. Both are perfectly acceptable. Now, like over here, how we had -3 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 4. You'll also get inequalities that have two symbols. So you might have ones like this. So this is a closed-in dot here, and this is an open dot. Again, these are both on the integer line, and we have our x over here as well. So we're going to start with -2, x, and 3. They are the first three pieces of information that we have, that we don't even need to work anything out. We are just looking at, where are my dots, what is my line called? Now we need to look at what type of dot we have. Above the -2, we have a closed dot. And because the line is going up the number line, x must be bigger than or equal to. Again, this is a closed dot. Coming above to the 3, this is an open dot. The line is coming down the number line, so x must be smaller than 3 or less than 3. So therefore we have -2 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 3. Okay, last one. Again, number line, dot above the 2, number line is called x. So we have x and we have 2. It is a closed-in dot, so it is an equal to. The number line, or the arrowhead, is pointing down the number line, so therefore x must be less than 2. So we write it like this. If we were to write one of the inequalities from over here, so let's do x is greater than 4. You would be given a blank number line. I'm going to draw mine because I don't have a number line handy. Okay, I have my x. even though 4 is here and x is greater than 4, we can still do this question. We put our open dot above 4 because x is greater than. Draw our arrow up here, going to the right, so going up the number line, so x is greater than 4. And you need to remember to put an arrowhead on the end of your line because x could be any value past this number line, so going off the line that we have currently. So this is x is greater than 4. If we were to do -3 is less than or equal to 4x, which is less than 4, it would look like this. Okay, let me just move my piece of paper over. So doing it on doing one more number line. This one is going to be a little longer. Okay, so we have a number, our inequality was -3 is less than or equal to x, which is less than 4. So dot above the -3, dot above the 4. Okay, this is a less than or equal to sign, so we need to color this one in. Then, using a ruler edge, you would draw a straight line between the two. So when it comes to inequalities, this is literally all the information you need to know. Let me zoom out just a little bit more. There is nothing harder about inequalities. If you can remember how to solve an equation, and you can remember that the steps for algebra apply the exact same way for inequalities, and then you can remember this part here, you will have mastered inequalities.